Welcome to Valentina Design Universe. Did you ever hear when you were growing up, "Oh, money doesn't grow on trees," or "money is dirty"? Well, we will have this myth dispelled tonight on Valentina Design Universe. Welcome again. I am Valentina, your host, and my guest tonight is Yulin Lee, a money coach or money empowerment coach. And there she is. Yulin, welcome to the show. I'm glad you came.
Yeah, thank you, Valentina, for inviting me.
Thank you, thank you. And you will be the one to dispel this myth. Why? I heard it when I was growing up. You probably did. Money doesn't go on a tree. What does that mean? And what we can say about that? Yes, it does. Money does go on tree.
Yeah, so yes, definitely I have heard of that when we were growing up. And I think, I don't know where the origin of that came from, but I think that has a lot to do with the concept of you have to work hard for the money. It doesn't just pop up in your life. I think that was really the spirit behind that. And I'm on the same page as you that this is probably one of the myths that we may want to dispel, and just for the benefit of having a positive attitude towards money. And so I would say money grows wherever you water.
Exactly.
And so if you think of your life as a tree of life, then looking at money as part of your life, and if you can think about how can I water in my life so that I can grow the wealth that's necessary for me to have the lifestyle that I want, then money can grow on the tree of your life.
In fact, I think I'm looking for a concept of harmony, harmony and money, because I'm into bringing beauty to people, bringing them colorful life and harmony. Being a designer, that's what I do. But money can be also harmony, right? How can we harmonize money and life?
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And I think especially for the modern world where everyone is so focused on getting something, building a business, making a lot of money, and it's just very action-driven or material-driven. And sometimes we are out of balance with the harmony. And so if we want to achieve harmony and peace in life, well, number one, we have to make that a priority first. So that's the first mindset shift that we need to have is, yes, money is important. Yes, we want more money to be able to live the lifestyle that we want. The question we have to keep asking ourselves and evaluating is at what cost, right? And so if you understand the trade-off between what you're doing to get money and what you're giving up at the same time, and if that is aligned with your value, like deep down value, not the societal imposed value, then you can achieve harmony while making money. But I think oftentimes that the world, the technology, everything's moving so fast that personal development, personal growth are not advancing at that same speed. And then that's when we get out of whack and not have that harmony and balance that you're talking about.
Exactly, because I think of those people that work their life, work all their life, or they work so much that they miss out of life.
Yeah.
Right? They
Yeah.
miss out of family, of their kids growing up,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
their kids' achievement,
Right.
just so they can make
Right.
lots of money.
Right. Right.
I don't think they are in
Yeah.
harmony with themselves, their lives, and what they produce.
Right, right. A lot of it is also the lack of awareness, that self-awareness, because we all grow up with certain type of conditioning, right? So one type of condition may be that that's what you're supposed to do, right? And that's kind of how I grew up too. Is when you're little, you go to school, you get good grades, and then you get good job, and then you get good pay, and then you buy a house. There's this almost unspoken formula that we have all been conditioned to, and that we've all just followed. So for many people, we follow that path without really questioning. But to get to the questioning part, we need that self-awareness first. So, and that's sometimes what's lacking, is the self-awareness. And then the other part, it could just be, again, their personal experience. Maybe somebody grew up in a very poor environment, and so that might be the driven, what's driving them to just want more and more and more, because they're compensating for something that they were missing. So
Right.
it has a lot to do with how we're growing up and what we've been conditioned to.
In fact, what we are told when we're kids probably has a lot of impacts as
Oh,
an
yeah.
adult, right?
Oh,
As
yeah.
an adult
Yeah.
life.
I will say almost 100% of the clients that I coach, that I help, and whatever issue they have around money, and like issue meaning internally, their relationship, their fear, their anxiety, and if we dig down a little deeper, it always comes back to how they grew up as a child. And it could be from their parents, it could be from the environment, but something along the way as they were growing up that had, like, it was a trigger for them that they didn't even realize. And that trigger caused them to have a certain concept and ideas of what money means to them. And so I've had clients where they said, I grew up in families where we didn't have a lot of money. My dad was always doing multiple jobs. And I remember really wanting his attention for him to play with me, but he was never around. So as an adult, you look at the situation, you said, he's being a responsible dad. He's doing what he needed to do to provide for the family. But from a kid's point of view, they don't understand that, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So as kids, we all know, like, as kids, we're the most selfish, beings in the world, because all we think of is ourselves. So for, one client that I talked to, that became her idea of what money is money equal to lack of love. She didn't, at that age, she didn't quite understand what her dad was doing was to provide for the family. And so unknowingly, we started carrying these stories around as we grow up, as we turn into adults. And then oftentimes it come into a pattern of avoidance. There's a lot of people that I work with, that I come across, they actually have a lot of avoidance behavior around money. Like, I don't want to deal with it, right? So where does that avoidance come from?
Right.
And it's come from the different type of experiences that they had where they were growing up.
And then the pattern repeats
Yeah.
again
Yeah.
and again. Yeah. But we're talking about harmony. It's like, from the way I see it, it's like I decorate and I make things happening with colors, shapes, form, and they all communicate together. You see an orchestra, they all play the same music and they all go in the same direction, right? And they play beautiful music. That's harmony. So money can harmonize, let's say, our lives, and the couples can be harmonized by being on the same path.
Right.
Has it ever happened to you to find couples that don't have the same beliefs and they don't think of money the same way?
Yeah, I mean, divorce is at about 50% across the world, plus or minus a few degrees. So that's mostly 1 in 2 couples will end up in a divorce. And the highest reason for divorce is money, right? And so part of it is because, again, no matter which culture you're coming from, most people don't have a habit of talking about money. So as you're early on in your relationship, you fall in love with each other, money is probably the last thing you want to talk about. And so most couples never talk about money when they get married. But then over time, after the honeymoon over, on the day-to-day, things start to pop up. And the differences start to show up. And a lot of times the differences come from how they were raised. They may have been raised in a very different family with different relationship with money. And so when you come from a different background, when you don't have a habit of talking and communicating, understanding each other, and sometimes it could be they really actually have different goals in life, when it comes around money, that maybe one person really want this nice luxury type of lifestyle and the other person just like don't care, right? And so maybe they end up fighting over money because one thinks the other person's spending too much and the other person thinks, oh, you're just being too cheap, right? But so the conflict shows up at the money level, at the superficial level, but really the conflict comes from the differences in their value system, in their expectations. So so it happens all the time.
So that's something it needs to be attacked, I would say, right at the beginning.
Addressed, yeah. That's what I encourage, young couples when they get into relationships, talk about money and really also just be mindful and watchful to see how the other person deal with money, right? Because I see it a lot that with couple being married for many years now, and one person just can't stand each other, the other person, how they're spending money or not spending money, right? So yeah, definitely. And then it's not just couples. So if you talk about harmony in the family, but then there's also the harmony, intergenerational harmony. How many stories have we heard when a elderly pass away, leaving a bunch of money to their kids, end up breaking up that family up? The kids fight over money and then end up, splitting the family. So it's so important to not only talk about money between the couples themselves, but to be talking about with their kids and making sure that they're also on the same page in terms of the value system, and then also maybe setting some expectations of what's to come when I'm gone, right? If you're someone who has some assets to leave to your kids, don't just leave it to them, because in many cases it will end up being a case where they actually break up the family.
And that's, I would say, is not how much you have, it's how you spend it. So to talk about money with the kids, I think is the utmost importance, because oftentimes kids don't really know where money comes from, and just because the parents give it to them.
That's right.
They spend it without any knowledge.
Right. So I started teaching my kids when my daughter was 8 and my son was 5, and it was teaching them about, when we do financial advisory and managing money, we talk about asset allocation. It's the same principle that we teach the kids. They get a certain amount of money when they were little as allowance. When that money comes in, put them into different envelopes. Make each dollar work for you. Give each dollar a different job. And so you give them that concept, you give them the habit, and then it just becomes their second nature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's a good method. Yeah. Give a dollar a job.
Give each dollar a job, and they all perform different jobs.
Absolutely. I remember one of my business coach said this: if you don't have much to invest, you have $1, invest that dollar, because you give that dollar a job to do. And it will work.
Yeah. And then the other thing I teach, the kids, it used to be my own kids, but then now I teach other people's kids in high schools and post-college. It's really understanding that sometimes they get $1. At the beginning, you're teaching them about having a charity mindset, to help other people. And then they will naturally just hand that dollar over to somebody that they feel like could use the money. And so the concept in there is, if you give it all away at once, that's the extent that you can do, right? But if you invest that dollar, maybe you give 10 cents away right now, you invest that 90 cents. let that grow. So you can actually keep giving out on the long term,
Yeah.
on a sustainable basis. And so that's also another key concept about teaching the kids.
Very nice. I like that. That's very, very good. Yes. So now I see your book here. Tell me the story of your book. And as it was, someone told me some times ago when I published the design book, so there are so many out there. Why yours is special?
Yeah.
I said, first of all, the world is have to be buying and have to be sold. So there is always someone that wants what you have.
Right.
But the reason is, and my explanation was that my book does this, this, and this. What's your audience for your book? Who
Yeah.
did you intend it to address it?
Yeah.
And what is it about?
Yeah, so I had this book idea for, it took me 10 years to get it out. And so during that time, you know, the idea of the book had kind of gone through a few iterations. But what it is now is it's a story of 5 different women. And these are fictitious characters, but there are true stories of my clients. And so I had to, you know, with a few of them, I had to, you know, maybe morph one story with another, mix them together just to completely, you know, protect the identity of my clients and the privacy. But I want to tell the story for the following reason. When I coach women around money, the biggest challenge I see with most people is the sense of shame and embarrassment.
Really?
Yeah. And deep down, somehow they feel ashamed. They feel like, oh, I'm so bad at money. And they feel, and, you know, so what I wanted to say is you're not alone. And that whatever you're experiencing, actually many of us experience, they may look different on the surface, but deep down, it's usually out of fear, out of lack of confidence, out of lack of self-worth. And so by telling these stories, I want to inspire, well, number one, to tell them they're not alone and that they're not the only one who is stupid, because that's how they think of themselves around money a lot of times. It's just that we all share same or similar human experiences. They just might look different on the surface.
Right.
But also that there's always hope. And that these stories of these women, it's also just telling how they got themselves out of the situation that were in, where they felt like they were in a pit somewhere and couldn't see the way out. But then eventually they get out, because at some point you just have to put your foot down and say, you know what, I'm worth it. I'm worth the work that needs to be done to get myself out of wherever I am.
And then, like everything else, we learn so many things in life, in many directions, in many fields.
Right.
So why shouldn't we learn about money? Why should we feel so, oh, I don't want to deal with it, it's not a good subject, or some people feel ashamed?
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Because
Why?
it's, well, I think just, you know, again, culturally, you know, there's all these sayings, right? Is money is evil, there's money is the sources of evil. I mean, all these sayings that we've been conditioned without really examining whether they're valid, whether they're right or not. And so that is actually the biggest work that we need to do, is the shifting of the mindset. Once that takes place, the actual management of money becomes so much easier. The reason people find it so hard is because in their mind, money is a hard subject. So one time, during a workshop that I did, and I had them go through an exercise, and one of the exercises after she said, I asked them how do they visualize money? Like, what does money look like to them, whether it's a man or a woman or a thing? And one woman said, money seems like a mountain to me, and I hate climbing.
Oh boy.
So, and then once she said that, it's like the light bulb goes off, right? For her too, it's like, well, that's why I feel it's always feels so hard in my life to deal with money, because that's how I'm visualizing it. That's how I'm associating with as a mountain, and I hate climbing. So of course I wouldn't have a good relationship with money, right? So
Yes.
so a lot of it is that self-awareness and growth that needs to happen first.
But I also think that is one of the major topic that should be taught in schools. Don't you think?
Absolutely.
You know, in schools nowadays, they teach so many useless subjects that they will never be used in life.
Yeah.
But they leave out money.
Yeah.
Why?
I think part of it could be, from the industrial development, right? Like back, if we think back how like the societies have evolved in the industrial age, what do we need like as a society? Well, we need people who work the assembly line.
Exactly.
We need people
Yeah.
to work the factories, right? So, and that's probably where it's all coming from, is like we need to train these people, we need to train these kids to grow up to fit a formula, not only at work in the assembly line, but also in how they live their life. And so there's no need to teach you money, because you know why? You go to school, you come out, you get a job, you stay with this company for your life, and then you get pension. Why would you need to learn about money? Right? Because if you were living in that formula, in that box, there's no need for you to learn.
You will always have a paycheck that comes every month.
That's
and
right.
this and that, and
That's right.
things that have very much
Right,
changed.
right. And then the assumption that you'll be taken care of when
Yeah.
you're retired, right?
Yeah.
But the world is changing, right? So
And that steady paycheck might not be real anymore.
that's right. And that's another thing that a lot of people talk about, what's safe, what's not safe. That oftentimes people feel a job is safer.
Okay.
That may or may not be, right? Because
True.
when there's a layoff, that is over you. There's nothing you can control of it.
Yeah.
Whereas when you run your own business, it's all up to you.
Absolutely.
So you actually have full control over it,
Yeah.
right?
True.
So some of those shifts in how we think about, what's safe and what's not safe. And it's the same thing in how we look at investments, right? So people don't invest. They keep their money in their savings account, bank account. They feel that's safer because the investment is too risky.
Yeah.
But in the reality is, if you don't invest, you put in the bank, your money will erode by inflation.
Yeah. And the money is
So-
not yours either.
Right.
Once you
right.
give it to the bank
Right.
to have it in deposit, it's not their money. It's their money, not your money anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. So do you have an advice, a quick advice to give to young people?
To young people, yeah. I mean, and I think this really applies to everyone. And that is, well, for young people, start early. Don't wait, because I know, having gone through that myself too, was that I was young, like, retirement, like, why do I want to think about that, right? I'm
And
too
then
busy.
boom,
right.
one day it happens.
Right. So to really get in the habit of doing something. It doesn't matter how much, kind of like what you said, it doesn't matter how much you're putting away into savings or into investment. The most important thing is the habits. Once you get into the habits, then as you get older, as you have more money,
Yeah.
you can do more, right?
Exactly.
So that's one thing for the younger people. But I think for everyone, really, is I always say that, every one of us, we were born with a bowl. And the size of that bowl determines how much money you will have in your life. That's the amount of money you can handle, right? And so if you want more money, you need to grow the size of your bowl.
Exactly.
And that's self-development. That's personal development. You need to grow yourself in order to be able to handle the more money that come into your life. And that's why, the majority of people who win the lottery lose it all within 3 to 5 years. Why is that? Because they can't handle it. They don't know how to handle that amount of money. And so, yeah, so it starts with
True.
self, actually, if you wanted
Yeah.
more money.
I like the analogy of a bowl, and when you're born, you are this little, have a little bowl, and then you grow and have a little bigger bowl, and then you grow and you bigger
That's
bowl.
right. That's right. Yeah.
I
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
It's very good.
So it's really the concept of expansion, not just in the money term, because I think people just go straight for the money, right? I want more money. But the thing is, if you grow yourself, you will naturally have more money coming into you. And you'll have more capacity to actually retain it.
So this is a myth that is no longer a myth,
No,
right?
no.
Money can
money
grow
can grow on
on
tree if you
trees.
fertilize and water the tree, your tree of life.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So now we are coming to an end. I believe the show will be just about ready to be closed. So I want to say money is good to fondle. They do things for you. It gives you a better doctor, better house, better clothes, sometimes better friends. Sometimes I wouldn't stay. I would stay away from them, just because if they come with you because you have money, they're not good friends. But they're not dirty. They're not bad. So we need to love them to a certain point and make them grow. Right?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, really think of money as a tool
Yeah,
and don't give it too much power.
that's right.
All right, so
And with that good thought, we will close the show. I thank you so much for
thank you for inviting me.
being here.
Yeah.
It's been so informative and fun. And thanks for the crews that have been here today to kick off my first show of the year. Thank you so much, everyone. You're so good. And until next time, peace and love as always,
In harmony.
and harmony.